Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline podcast. Just me today, no guests, because I don't have guests. But what I do have is games, movies, and TV chat. Stuff I've been watching, playing, and doing. And something from the week when it was recorded. So there you go. Whilst I've got your attention, right at the start of all of this, maybe I could just ask you to quickly subscribe wherever you're getting this podcast. And if you're already a subscriber, grab a friend, family member, stray dog, and ask them to also subscribe. They will love you for it. Trust me. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline. Hello. How you doing? You alright? Good. Now we have to go through. Anybody remember ages ago when I'd start a podcast and then spend 10 minutes moving things to get set up? Well, we're apparently back to those days. So how's your week going? Is it going well? Going good? You having a good time? Good. This is going to be a short podcast. I have nothing to talk about of any real merit. Now, anybody who's listened to the podcast before might think that's no different to any other time. But we'll see how we get on. So, since we last spoke, it's been a birthday in the house. So my middle daughter had a birthday. So sort presents, sort of unofficial party out. So she came and she opened her presents. It's always a difficult thing because it's just kids, isn't it? Kids of certain ages. They can never tell you what they want, which never helps anything. And then you get stuff and it's like, I did the best I could with the information I had, which was no information whatsoever. But I think it went well, and she opened all her gifts, seemed to be pleased. A clear sign that she did like and enjoy the things that she got was that she opened and used them all. Which I think is probably a good sign. But it's got that thing, isn't it, that, it's only 2 minutes ago that we had Christmas, so it's always that problem with those early birthdays, or in fact late birthdays. So birthday party, yeah, they're stressful. They're really stressful. It wasn't a party. It was a unofficial party. But I asked her if she wanted to invite people to play and or do an activity and where they would like to go. So the prospect of going to Creepy Crawlies on a Saturday afternoon, not up there at the top of a list of priorities for me, but if one of my children says they want to do something, then within reason, that's what we're going to do. So Just picked a couple of friends. It was that. So invites were done. Would you like to come to this thing? Nearly everybody came. Which was good of everybody. You have that moment where like the time of the party passes and then you're like, why if nobody comes? Because you don't want to be in that situation, because that would be awful. But as it was, nearly everybody came. So there's that, and they had the opportunity to play. They had the opportunity to have some food, go and see some animals. I've never been in the outside area, which I feel I've probably missed out somewhat because the outside area was massive. And there was animals and like a fun fair. So that's probably something I should go back and check out in the daylight, maybe. The time we were there, the time moved really weird. Like 1 minute I kept checking the time, I was like, is it me or is time just not moving? I think that's often with high stress situations. And then there was a point where I'd like check the time and then check the time again, and like half an hour had jumped by. So yes, it was a very stressful situation because in a lot of ways I kind of felt like I was doing it on my own. I took all the children and Leanne stayed at home with the dog. So that in itself would have been probably a little stressful, but then when you've got other people and other people's children, I invited podcast alum Edward and his good lady to come, and they did, bless them. So I had that sort of moral support, moral backup. But in hindsight, could have definitely done with some actual additional help. However, certainly one of the parents that was there was an amazing help. And Ed and his good lady were also a huge help. One of those points in time where somebody asks you if you want a coffee and you realise at that moment where you're just like, that is the thing I need. That is the thing that will sort everything out. It will calm everything down. So little things do matter and do make a difference. Had the difficult sort of juggling act of my youngest versus my eldest, being that my eldest doesn't want to spend the entire time that she is in a place like that just dealing with my youngest, because my youngest doesn't want to always do what my eldest wants to do. And vice versa. So I had to sort of make sure that she wasn't just lumbered with the youngest, whilst also trying to maintain the party moving forward. Presents, food, make sure there's plenty of time to play, so on and so forth. See the animals, all that sort of stuff. But as in any of these situations, I think you have to count the small wins, the small victories, the small things that you can take away from this. Nobody died. Big win. No broken bones, no injuries of any sort that I remember. My youngest nearly got ate. My youngest nearly got eaten by a horse. Managed to intervene there. So a win's a win. Whether it's by an inch or a mile, a win is a win. And that was basically that. That child's birthday is over for another year. I'll locate my drink. Here it is. Not sure drinking a goes was the right idea whilst doing a podcast. In the last week, there's been something that's happened in the last week, and it hit me hard. Obviously, from where I record these to where you hear them, there's a few weeks. But I was sent the news that singer and actor MacLeod had passed away. And it hit me hard. I'm not going to lie. It hit me hard. Don't know how to say it any other way than actually saying it. I used to be a huge MacLeod fan. So, my music taste grew from the first music I ever chose to listen to was Def Leppard, somewhere about 1986 or something. And it just went from there. Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith. Those were the big ones growing up. And then MacLeod. Me and a lad I went to school with were big MacLeod fans. Somebody I was once in a relationship with was also a big MacLeod fan. That music, that artist, obviously there's the point in time where he was in Fight Club, Rocky Horror, so there's also the acting side of thing. It's great in Fight Club. So that person's kind of been with me through various points in time. I can remember key points in time that had that sort of backing track of his music, and then even years and years and years later, talking to people who have that sort of, I suppose, classic rock background. Eventually, it's gonna fall on MacLeod. And it's one of those things. He was 74, which is a reasonable age. Apparently, he'd been in quite ill health recently. So, yes, it was a difficult thing to hear. Obviously, I had to spend an entire day in tribute to MacLeod, listening to a variety of classic MacLeod tracks. I do have a tendency to stay away from the big ones. I like sort of the lesser known ones. So yes, rest in peace, MacLeod. Your music was the soundtrack to my life at one point in time. Sad to see you go. But it brought about that sort of thought of, oh my word, I'm reaching an age, and I'm sure they're reaching an age where I'm going to see heroes of mine pass away. I've always said, the moment in time that any current member of Metallica dies will be a sad day in this house. Obviously, a member of Metallica has died previously, and that's very, very sad. But yes, any surviving members. The one that I always sort of thought, because of, again, an age thing, from being a certain age, and especially the fact that for the majority of his life he's dealt with illness, was Michael J. Fox. Another person that I sort of grew up watching through, like, Family Ties, Back to the Future, a whole host of other movies, Spin City being a big one. I believe that was sort of the back end of his acting. Cameos that he did. I know he did a couple of episodes of Scrubs, which were very good. But has dealt with Parkinson's pretty much. Well, I think it's safe to say the majority of his life. And that's very sad. Richard Pryor was quoted as saying, Parkinson's, the disease that doesn't kill you, it just makes you wish you were dead. So yeah, I had to reflect on, how, like I say, how heroes' deaths affect you. So yeah, it's very sad to have lost, Meatloaf. I kind of want to double back on something. I wrote my list in a particular way. And although the third thing on my list is what it is, actually relates to the first thing on the list. But I want to talk about, like, genuinely good people. So, daughter's birthday, she had a party, went to the party. Ed and his partner came, and like I say, somebody can just say something as simple as, "Oh, do you want a drink? Would you like a coffee?" And that can be like a saving grace kind of thing. Ed had generously got birthday card for my daughter. Had very generously given her some money for her birthday. But had also got a card for my eldest, and had put money in there as well, and explained at length that was because he's bought stuff for my middle daughter previously, but always seems to miss my eldest's birthday, and couldn't have been much more touched by a gesture. It's very kind. It was unnecessary, but still incredibly kind thing to do. And it got me thinking on this thought of genuinely good people, and the fact that being in the place where we were was potentially and probably quite a difficult situation for Ed to be in. Very loud, lots of children, lots of it's just, I would say, organised chaos, but I don't know where the organisation would come into it. Obviously weekends and evenings, people's downtimes, but he stuck it out. Was there for a good hour or so. interacted with other people, kept certain wheels turning. One of the other parents that was there, I think, had sort of realised and seen and sensed that I was kind of doing it on my own, and immediately switched over to parent mode, to let's steer the ship the right way, let's get this party done. Another parent had offered to help out by looking after my youngest, and between all of these people, we collectively got through it. We walked out alive at the end. And it's that thing, it's that situation of, that could have easily gone a completely different way. That could have been a situation where somebody could have said, oh, I know I said I was going to come, but I'm not. And, you know, that aspect of things, and just small details to some people are big details to others. I was very thankful of these people, very appreciative of these people that helped me to do something for someone else, or for a group of other people. And it just made me very thankful, very appreciative. A reminder that there are still good people out there in the world. And like I say, feeling fortunate enough to spend time with good people. As I said previously, I didn't have a massive amount of stuff to talk about. One of those things I often find in situations like this, that I've got a lot of stuff that I could say, and a lot of it falls into the category of I don't know what's me rambling. There are situations where there's stuff I want to talk about, but I feel like I can't. There are other things, but on the flip side, I was like, you know, sometimes the list is huge, and sometimes those podcasts are lengthy. So let's try and just go with an it is what it is podcast. Let's talk entertainment. See, that's how quick that happened. I am still plugging away at Burn Notice. It's just difficult to watch. It's not the show that it started out as. It's taken another sort of bit of a turn recently. I think they've probably maybe felt like it was getting away from what it was supposed to be, so I don't know if they're maybe trying to bring it back a little, which is probably a really good idea. I feel like I might be drawn into the back end of Series 6, which would put me only... Let me just have a quick look. It would put me only one series away from finishing. Let's have a look. I know I say this every time, but you can't tell me it's a coincidence that they did 111 episodes. Where am I up to now? Okay, so there are 18 episodes, and I think I'm on episode 14. Maybe. No, that's not it. What about this one? No. What about this one? Yes, I am on episode 11. So, a little bit of ways to go with this series, and then, let's face it, at this point in time, I've only got a series left, so I'll probably look at finishing it. I read an amazing thing today about why we find it difficult to watch new things. And apparently it's to do with not having the emotional space to dedicate to new characters and to new situations. It's fascinating. However, speaking of new things, I have watched the first 2 episodes of Cowboy Bebop, the live-action series. I watched the first episode, and I was pleasantly surprised because everything I heard said that it was garbage. I watched the first episode. I was like, "This feels like the anime. This feels very much like you would want it to." I don't see what the problem is. I don't see why people have been saying that it is not good. I watched the second episode. I was like, "Oh, there it is." Went downhill massively, dropped like a stone. Obviously, at this point in time, I'm going to have to give it more of a chance. I don't relish the idea, but maybe it was just a singular bad episode. I have the feeling probably not. And I have my own theories on these things, largely around things like I believe Netflix does this on purpose. But I could go into at length my theory on this, which I don't think anybody really wants to hear. Oh, definitely a bad idea to get a goes. So, if I watch more, I'll keep you posted, obviously. Speaking of watching things, Saturday night I watched not 1, but 2 movies. Both of them I've seen before. So there's that. But one was a DC animated movie, which I watched with my eldest, which was Superman Batman Apocalypse. In DC animated movie-ness, I believe probably the first time that Supergirl comes into it. So we get a bit of Supergirl backstory and that sort of stuff. One of those things. Watched it with my eldest. And the next day we were talking about it, and we both said that we thought it was really good. I was saying how this is sort of the time where DC were really pushing the boundaries of what they could achieve through animation. If somebody as supposedly as strong as Superman hits somebody who is as strong, maybe stronger, sort of, it's going to cause like a bomb level kind of explosion. So it's at a point that they really started pushing that boundary. Having seen it and knowing that my eldest hadn't, it was that thing where I knew what was coming towards the back end. It's very much set up to make you think it's finished, and then it dupes you, and it is in fact not finished. I was pleased with the situation where, like I said, me and my eldest spoke about it the next day. She was saying it was the best one she's seen so far. I think that's just one of those things that the most recent one you've seen, as long as it's good, it's kind of up there as that's the best one I've seen, because it's the one I can remember the clearest sort of thing. The real test is going to come when I highlight to my eldest that having all of these films on like Blu-ray and stuff means that she has the option to watch them again, and seeing which ones that she picks out as ones to watch again. After that, It was Saturday night in this house, and Saturday night for me is more often than not sitting and watching a movie, eating a cheap meal, and trying to relax from the stresses of the week. As I was saying previously, reading that stuff about why we can't always commit to watching new things was very interesting. I scoured 2 of the 3 streaming services that I have access to, looking for something, intentionally looking for something new, and I didn't find anything. What I did find was a film that has been on my list of rewatch for quite some time. What it meant was that I was going to have to watch 3 films before it to get up to it. I've set myself the task of watching all of the Spider-Man films. My intention is to watch them all in order and then watch the new one, whether that's going to the cinema to see it while it's still there, or I imagine more than likely waiting for it to be released on Blu-ray type deal. So, the film I'd seen was Amazing Spider-Man, but what that meant was I was going to have to watch the first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi. Those films have a special place in my heart because they were Marvel movies when we didn't get Marvel movies every 8 seconds. And they were characters that we didn't get to see on the big screen. And it was maybe... Was it going to see Spider-Man that I went to see at midnight and I was drunk? And when Spider-Man came up on the screen, I cheered in a mostly empty cinema. Let me check the year. Yeah, 2002. So it will have been that one. And that's the sort of thing I mean. The sort of thing I mean is like, it's a big thing to be getting stuff like that when you're a fan of these things. So those films hold a special place in my heart. And that's that. So I sit down, I've got my cheat meal in hand, pop Spider-Man on. But it's a while since I've seen it, and whether those films have a special place in my heart or not, it was almost like I was seeing it for the first time in some ways, because those films, as time's gone on, have taken a lot of criticism, especially the third one. I believe the second one's quite highly regarded. Some of the criticisms that were made about how all of the quote-unquote children at the school were all like 40. That was very noticeable watching it this time. Something that I had never noticed about the first Spider-Man is how massive amounts of it don't make any sense. Once the Green Goblin comes into it, he spends half of the film just wanting to be Spider-Man's mate. Like, oh, let's be friends. Spider's like, I don't want to be friends because you're a bad guy. He's like, yeah, but I'm going to do loads of really elaborate things to get you to be my friend. Like, he announced himself to the world as basically a supervillain, but spends his time just being like, oh, Spider-Man, will you be my friend? Spider-Man's like, no. He's like, oh, maybe if I come up with a more elaborate way to ask you to be my friend. And then, spoilers, there's the bit at the end. Again, spoilers if you haven't seen a 20-year-old film at this point. There's a bit at the end with MJ, Mary Jane, where he's been after her that entire film, and then she's like, oh, I've finally realised that I'm in love with you. And he's like, yeah, we should be friends. It makes no sense. Watching it this time, like I say, 20-year-old film, I was like, I don't know if this film makes a huge amount of sense. It was strange watching it again. after all this time. So, talk some computer games. There's one that I hadn't written on my list. I'm going to quickly talk about it. I wanted something new-ish to play. So I looked through a list of games that you get for free. PS4 to PS5 upgrades for free if you've got PlayStation Plus. And found the game Persona 5. Not really a game in my wheelhouse, but I was looking for something different out of the box. So I was like, yeah, I'll download it. It's free. Saw some reviews and stuff that were like, oh, this game gets going right from the start. Had a conversation with podcast alum Sam, and he was like, oh, if the last 2 games in the Persona series are anything to go by, they're super slow. You don't really do anything for the first 3 to 4 hours. I was like, oh, well, a review I saw said that it kind of got going from the start, so don't know about that. Having played the first hour or so, I can say this: it does indeed get going straight from the get-go. You're straight in the action, and then immediately turns into wandering around. Now, I am judging this game overly critical, overly harsh, because I've only played a little bit of it. But there's a reason for that. Now, I'm going to say something. And what I'm going to say is, my intention is to go back to it. But I also, at the same time, downloaded Final Fantasy 15. Because, do you know what? If I couldn't play that game the first 4 times, maybe this one's the time. Maybe now's the time to play it. Luckily, it has transferred my saves over, so I've discovered that I have played that game for nearly 60 hours. I also discovered that I was stuck on it, which was why I'd stopped playing it. Thanks to YouTube, I managed to get unstuck and progress in that game. However, there's so much wrong with that game, I can't even go into it. And I've ended up feeling like I just needed something familiar, let's say. And I know what you're going to say before I say it. But hear me out. I put Avengers on. Now, there's a reason for this. I played Avengers on the PS4, and then I played Avengers on the Xbox. And when I played Avengers on the Xbox, I found that because I'd started from the beginning, I realised that the stuff at the beginning is actually the best stuff in the game. It's only when it tells you to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again that it's just a baffling concept. The other thing that's really, really annoying about that game is they made one of the worst characters the main character. I'll have spoken about this at length, but it's super off-putting. It's like, you need to go and do this entire mission as this character, and it's just that groan of, oh God, no. Bearing in mind having played Guardians of the Galaxy, which was exceptional, it's like, how? But I'm testing a theory. Pretty sure that I had the option to finish Avengers when I was playing it on the PS4 and chose not to because I was kind of trying to attempt to do like each of the heroes' side missions to get their stories. But again, that concept is so heavily broken, it was nigh on impossible. But I had the last mission there to play and just never played it. So my intention, be what that, is to try and finish it. And that's to just finish the story and be done with it. Once and for all. Maybe. The biggest problem you've got is it's probably one of the best Iron Man games that there's been. Because when you play as Iron Man, they've got the Iron Man side of that game down so well. It's painful how good they've got the Iron Man side of things. Could do with a boost when you're flying. That's all I'll say. Other than that, they have got that Iron Man down. Which is why it's so annoying, because you want to play as Iron Man. You want to play as Iron Man. Let's play as Iron Man. And then you're like, oh, let's play as this other character who's not anywhere near as good as Iron Man. Cool, let's do that, shall we? Anyway, I have talked at length about Avengers previously and my dislike for it as a concept, not necessarily as a game. That is actually it. That's the podcast. We are done here. Short, sweet, to the point, kind of. Thank you for listening along. I'd like to say I'll have more for you next week, but who knows? Might be another quiet one. We shall see. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. So there you go. What do you think to that? Another one done. Another week gone. Where does the time go, I tell you? Thank you for listening along. Thank you for watching if you're watching. And thank you for subscribing if you're subscribing. That's a hint. You can also check out our website, thecookiecast.com. See what we've got going on over there. Drop us a line using our social media links or our email address, and we will get back to you in some way, shape or form. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.